Hey there, Nicole Frost of Frost Yarn, and today I'm going to show you what I've been working on for the last 3 weeks, which is a hyperlapse of everything I've done to prepare for Stitches SoCal, which tomorrow is load in, and I'm so excited. It took me many hours to film this, edit this, set it up, and if you want to know what is in the cost of a skein of yarn or a braid of roving, then follow along and I'm going to show you everything from what I paid for it, how long it took me to process, every step of the way to the finished product. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here I'm doing the math for each skein so that the colors fade gradually and calculating how many resists I need. $1,844 divided by 19 cones is $97.10 per 1,000 grams, which for me is 20 50-gram skeins since my nebula gradient kits are built with 50 grams each, so I can give you more colors for less money. Don't let the hyperlapse fool you. The actual cost, time-wise, of cutting 3 50-gram skeins is this. And I have 2,000 grams on the cone. So I'm probably going to be sitting here for the better part of 8 hours cutting just a couple cones worth of yarn. Cutting the yarn and tying the resists is definitely not something that most dyers do, but it's what I do. Tying resists is a very time-consuming process, but it's absolutely essential to get the look I'm going for. This is a 2-step dye process, so it starts right here with step 1, resists. To get a nice solid shade in the background, you got to have baths set up of different amounts of dye and a little rig to hold some of the yarn out of the water. Because we're going to rainbow paint that later, but right now we got to cut those resists, and that shit takes time. Now we're going to over dye all the resists and the white parts, little tiny specific rainbows for each one, just so when the person goes back to knit it, they've got a very specific effect in the finished fabric. These are 300-gram skeins, but usually I cut 50s and have to syringe in thousands of resists. And then, of course, the rinse out process, which takes a very long time for such a difficult color. Luckily, it was sunny this day and it only took an afternoon to dry. It is 126 degrees here and very moist. Oh my God, sweat's getting into my mouth. Ugh. Now I got to take 5 grams off of each of these skeins and crank a knit sample. And yes, I have to use a knitting machine because I no longer have the time to hand knit. This particular machine is a Brother LK150 and it is supposed to be totally goof-proof for beginners and easy. And as you're about to see, unfortunately, it happens to be possessed by a demon and it knows when it's being watched and won't work. And yeah, it kept dropping the yarn, and as soon as I turned off the camera, it magically started knitting. So this happens every time. It takes about a half an hour to crank an 8-inch sample that's about 4 inches wide, and this is what it looks like. I did have to graft it because, like I said, the machine is possessed, but here's how it looks under black light, and I'm really happy. As you can see, the little rainbow sections get fewer and fewer, and the black gets darker. Moving on, this is what it looks like rescanning into minis, and this is an intensely time-consuming process. And yes, it snagged and stopped frequently. Luckily, my dad made me this cool little skein winder out of a drill and a bike hook, and this dramatically decreases the amount of time it takes to wind and create labels for these 4 kits. So everything you've watched so far is time lapse of me just dyeing, cutting, twisting, and creating labels for 4 kits, which I'm about to show right now. So while I am intensely proud of the work I put in to create these and all the steps necessary to create a yarn unlike anybody else's yarn, I have 4 kits for $85. So let's do the math on how little that is hour for hour. So this is the math. Any math whizzes out there, feel free to check me. But basically, I added up all the minutes that it took from every single part of the process, and it added up to 299.37 minutes of time to create 4 gradients that are retailing for $85 each. The base yarn cost per kit is $24. Then the dye acid power water cost per kit is $2.68. The tag, bag, and stickers are 89 cents each per kit. So that's a total net cost to me out of pocket of $27.57. So $85 minus $27.57 is $57.43 net profit to me per kit. And there's 4 kits for a total of $229.72 if all 4 are sold. And the total number of hours that it took to create them is 4.98, essentially 5 hours of work. So my pre-tax per hour compensation is $46.12 for this gradient. But there's more. The booths at Stitches for me were $1,200 each. Technically, I have 3, but I'm only selling out of 1. The other 2 are going to be split between some friends of mine that live across the country and otherwise wouldn't be able to do an expensive show like this without support on the ground. For example, if you want to rent grid racking, it is triple the cost to rent it than it is to buy it and throw it in the trash after the show. I'm talking about like literally double to triple the cost depending on what you're talking about. So I was lucky that I had enough grid racking to share. The van rental is $250 plus another $150 for insurance and gas and mileage overage since it's 60 miles each way and I have it on Wednesday and Sunday. Then there is show insurance, which was $68. And then there's probably, I paid $150 for the entry to the fashion show. So all of these things add up to, I only have about $10,000 worth of merchandise. So even if I sell 100% and my booth cost was $3,600 plus another $400 for the van rental, it's going to be a pretty penny, but you get to meet people and I get to pay forward the generosity another yarn shop gave me in 2018 and 2019 by allowing me to be a guest in their booth and sell through them and stay in their hotel. So I'm excited. I can't wait to meet you guys. And this is just a couple weeks in the life of a dyer and what the baseline costs look like to bring you an amazing yarn show.